The 2018 Commonwealth Games are underway at the Gold Coast in Australia, and this is Nigeria's 14th participation at the Games since 1950. From 1950 to the last Games in 2014, Nigeria has amassed a total of 212 medals, as against just 25 medals won at the Olympics. The country's best outing at the Games so far was in 1994 in Canada, where a total of 37 medals were won. In the last Commonwealth Games in 2014, held in Glasgow, Scotland, Nigeria was 8th in the medals table, winning 11 gold, 7 silver, and 14 bronze, making a total of 36 medals. Now, with Nigeria competing again, we ask, how can the team improve on medals HURL in the previous outings? This is what Nigeria Today will be examining on this midweek edition of the program. I am Kande Daniel, and I have in the studio with me a great sports personality to talk on the 2018 Commonwealth Games and the participation of Nigeria. Jide Fashikung, an ex-international who is also a famous vocal sports journalist and sports commentator and administrator, and I understand currently chairman of the 2018 FCT Swan Electoral Committee. You're welcome, Jide.
Thank you and good evening.
Good evening. Welcome. We're going to leap into the discussion right away by asking, what does the Commonwealth Games represent for a country like Nigeria?
I will say that it's one opportunity for us as a country to be able to use some of our budding athletes to measure against other nations of the world that had the same colonial background under the British colonial lords, to be able to assess how prepared are we for the next Olympic Games. Because the Commonwealth Games, again, usually come at a point in time that is like a mid-term between two different Olympics. And usually, even the prelude, we observed that we did very well in the 1994 Commonwealth Games in Canada. And that was a significance to how well we did in the 1996 Olympic Games. So it's like a midterm assessment of how prepared are we for the next Olympics.
Have you noticed that over time Nigeria tends to perform better at the Commonwealth Games than at the Olympics? Can we deduce any reason for this trend?
Usually, we had also been running a kind of system in Nigeria that is not essentially supportive of sports development, and this is a basis for why we have also been trying to convince government that the kind of money that is required to drive sports development, no government anywhere in the world can put the kind of money together. Sports funding is a typically private sector business, and if we look at the 1994 and the 1996 Olympics, we had some money that were raised when Nigeria qualified for the first time for the World Cup in 1994 from all the states of Nigeria. Now, it was that fund that was used in the preparation for the Super Eagles to go to Tunisia, which we won. And after that, General Adipo Dia then instructed the committee to extend it to the preparation towards the Olympic Games, which culminated in our preparation for that Commonwealth Games and into the Olympics. But ever since then, we have not been doing well. And the basis is that government cannot put the kind of funds that they have into sports development. It's a totally private sector thing. So until we learn to go back, to go and do what other nations of the world do, then that's where we can start to make our performance in the Commonwealth Games to rank appropriately with the performance at the Olympics.
Over time, I have sensed your personal passion for improvement in sports in Nigeria, especially in international engagements. So now I'd like to hear your assessment of the level of preparedness of the athletes that we have sent to Australia. Do you expect that we will win medals?
This question has a two-way approach to it. One, if we have to look at what we have done as an institution, as a country, then we will not expect our athletes to do well in the Commonwealth Games. But again, if we also look at what the individual athletes have also done for themselves, then there is some level of hope that, again, we are going to reap from where we did not sow. Of all the federations, of all the 9 federations going to the Commonwealth Games in Australia, one has to single out the Nigerian Wrestling Federation. And the basis for singling them out is the fact that they have a consistent approach to developing their athletes, which had been on in the last 6 years. Now, this is exactly what they are taking to the next Commonwealth Games. Every one of the athletes in the wrestling team is a potential medalist in Gold Coast. Now, coming back to athletics, you appreciate the fact too that the federation was able to start its own program early than it's supposed to be, because of the calendar of the Commonwealth Games is coming at a time that doesn't suit an African nation. And that's part of the reasons why you find out that countries like South Africa and Kenya, they don't normally go to the games with the best of their own athletes. So they go with some of their athletes that are budding, that they want to expose to international stardom. And unlike in our own case, we throw the very best of ours to the field. But again, one would say too that there are going to be a whole lot of new stars that are going to be born from Nigeria at the Commonwealth Games. We're
going to get surprises.
Definitely.
Okay, now that you've expressed some hope in our wrestling team, it could be good for the purpose of this discussion to let our viewers know specifically, rather than presuming, what sports are we taking part in? What are the 9 sports that Nigeria has sent athletes for?
We are presenting athletes in table tennis, we have in athletics, we have in wrestling, we have in weightlifting, we have in table tennis was another scandal, but again, we were able to nip it in the bud. We also have gymnastics, we have basketball. Basketball actually is the only team sport that qualified for the Commonwealth Games. But of all the sports, we also have boxing, which makes the 9th sport. Of all this, I think my faith is not too strong on boxing. But on the others, I think there will be some medals that will be coming out from the boards.
What's the reason for that fear?
Essentially, our boxing and weightlifting had already faced down south in terms of performance and the quality of younger athletes that we're supposed to be producing as a nation. So we're really not producing new athletes, and that is also a significance of the volume of athletes that we're presenting in these 2 sports. These are 2 sports that some years back you will gladly count how many medals Nigeria can win, but now you cannot even take a wager and say, let me take a bet on them.
All right, let's talk a bit about athletics. Aside athletes like Blessing Okabare and Patience Okon-George, who else do you think we should be looking out for to do the country proud?
Even the case of Blessing, to shock Nigerians to realize the fact that despite breaking the 200 meters African record and also posting a 10.72 just this last weekend. She's not going to run these two events. She's only running the 4x100 meters, and a whole lot of Nigerians are actually not even aware why is Blessing doing this to Nigeria. The truth of the matter, again, is when she got injured last year, everybody abandoned her to her fate, and she had to go and raise as much as $190,000 to get some medical experts to come and work on her body. Now, it's after that treatment that she started her preseason program. Now, you can see the new Blessing with the kind of performance she has thrown. And she decided that since you cannot support me when I'm injured, then I will do minimal for the country. And that's why she's also doing the 4x100 meters relay. But beyond this, we're really going to get some new stars. I'm actually looking especially into javelin, where we have Kelechi Nwanaga, who incidentally got a surprise admission to an American university with a 4-year scholarship and left for the US. And since she left for the US, she got into the US at a time when it was an indoor season. So this is actually the first outdoor she will be doing. And she's actually been able to get the first time that Nigerian javelin throwers are getting the aerodynamic javelin courtesy of Chief Mary Onyale. And that again has also given some of us some hope that Samuel Kure, the male, is also likely going to spring some surprises. But in Kure's place, I do not see him get a gold medal because we have the world champion, the Kenyan, who is Yego, who is also going to be competing for Kenya.
Yes, yes.
But beyond that, we are also hoping to see he's going to do some magic. Then one other person I think we'll have to look out for is Queen Obiseso in hammer. She has broken the Nigerian record 4 times this season, and that's another hope of the fact that something great is supposed to spring out from her.
All right, we do have some high hopes. We have some high hopes. Can we take a break now?
Definitely.
All right, we are going to pause here to take some responses that we got when we went out on the street to find out from Nigerians what they think about the level of preparedness for the Commonwealth Games.
Sometimes I feel discouraged in the sense that when you see that they're supposed to perform better in this aspect and you discover that it's other way around. So to me, if they can team up together and cooperate together, I think we can go further and better and achieve what Nigeria is supposed to achieve.
Actually, I can bet on Blessing Okagbare. She's been a good athlete. She has performed very well in previous competition that she engaged herself on. So I am hoping that she's going to come up better. At least she's going to give us a gold medal.
Nigeria will go a long way because they have started preparing before the time. So I think they will bring bronze and silver and gold for Nigeria, because when you prepare yourself before the time, definitely you are going to get a good result. And we wish them all the best. By the grace of God, they are going to bring gold for Nigeria.
I believe our games have also improved over the years, and with people like Blessing Okagbare in there and other big athletes also, we're going to do better, more than the way we performed in the past Commonwealth Games.
I'm wishing them well for the game, and I hope they win. And if they win, I'll celebrate because it's my country. But most times, people know what the problem is as technical issues, so they should try to work on their background, work on their players, so that all this fear and anxiety they'll put in people sometimes when games like this come up will not be there. So I wish them well. All the best for the games.
Welcome back. Nigeria Today, continuing the discussion with Jide Fashikun on Nigeria's participation in the Commonwealth Games just starting today. Well, Jide, you heard those comments from the streets of Nigeria by Nigerians. A lot of hope there being expressed still on Blessing Okabare. Before we go back to her matter, I know some people are wondering actually, for Nigeria, the giant, 9 sports at the Commonwealth, is that good enough? Do you think we could have put in more wood into the fire?
I think so. Given even comparing our appearance in this Commonwealth Games to what we heard in terms of size at the last Games. And that's part of the reasons why some of us were shocked why the Ministry of Sports had to, although according to them, there were no enough funds with which to execute their plans for the Commonwealth Games.
Money matters.
Money matters. Now, that's part of the reasons why most of the federations were given very tight quota of athletes to take to the Commonwealth Games. So if you are given shrinked quota, then you should ordinarily not expect a massive medal haul. For instance, a whole lot of questions were raised as to the whole of the Table Tennis Federation. You're giving only table tennis 4 slots. And 4 slots is a team. You are either doing a male team or you're doing a completely female team. So the federation decided to go for a male team. If any one of these 4 happens to fall ill or even get injured, then it jeopardizes the entire chances of that team. Now, we have a Funke Oshonaike. We have Effion, who is also doing very well in their clubs. A whole lot of people are saying, yeah, they are old. But it's not about the quantity of or the chronological age that you're carrying on your head that matters. It's about the circumstances of what you meet in a tournament. Because if they have gotten to the tournament and the pairing favors them, anything could have happened. So, but if Ministry of Sports came to Nigerians and were telling us of what is called comparative advantage, they were counting their chickens even before the eggs are already primed to bring out chickens. The question that a whole lot of Nigerians keep asking again is, for how long do we want to continue to batter our government into funding sports? With 180 million Nigerians, if 10% of this population decide to do what is done, for instance, in Egypt, where I played my own professional career, then there are chances that we're going to be having much more money than even government can actually put into sports development. And that will mean that more children and youth can actually come into sports. And that most likely will cut down the possibility of crime and criminality by almost 50%. So our non-attendance to how we're supposed to do sports development is actually killing some other sectors of the economy.
Can you quickly tidy up that suggestion you were trying to make about how to crowd-fund sports in Nigeria?
No, we're actually already on it. 11 of us who played for Nigeria had already put together what we call the Basic Olive Opportunity Sports Training. And we are setting up 6 national athletics development centers in the country. The first one is the one for the Southwest in Ondo State, which is going to be launched on the 12th of April. And from that process, we have already identified 90 athletes that are going to give 10 million naira for every year to prepare for the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. Now, if you have this kind of money, then there are chances that you'll be able to concentrate and do exactly what you're supposed to do. Compete in any international event, come back home. You have complete insurance, you have an annuity plan, you have 75,000 naira living allowance every month. There is no way that the Nigerian athletes will not be able to feel a sense of nationalism because the nation now has been able to provide for them. So if they have to compete for the nation and even break their leg, they will want to do it. But a situation where they don't have any level of support at all, they don't want to do any extra for the country. So,
would you like to say something about the issue of mentoring and more specifically succession plans? Taking Blessing Okabare as an example, our 29-year-old Blessing, I think she is, 29-year-old.
Yeah,
Taking her as an example, what do you think should be done, or what is being done to find equally good replacements for such athletes when the time comes for them to hang their boots?
The best thing we could have done is to put structures together where we have to go back to primary and secondary schools. If we do not go back to those places, that's the factory from where you build athletes. That's where we were discovered from. For instance, I was in class 3 secondary school, and I was 15-year-old when I started playing for the country. And in 1999, when I was 35, I made up my mind, I think I'm done, because the only championship I never attended was the Olympics. Now, with an athlete like Blessing, we are supposed to have been able to put together a structure where even now some potential athletes would have been behind her, being mentored to be able to come up and take over. For instance, as soon as Usain Bolt was leaving, you see the kind of support he was giving to Johan Blake, because Johan Blake was already growing up in his image. And by the time he's leaving, Johan Blake is supposed to come to these Commonwealth Games, get the 100 meters to announce that I am back, Jamaica is back. And that's exactly what we need to do as Nigeria. We have a whole lot of international stars in virtually all the sports that can actually mentor these kids. And that's part of the reasons why we had to bring in Nduka Odizo to come back to Nigeria, and he had to do 2 tennis clinics in Akure and Asaba. Now, those kids now are already thinking we can be better than him. And that's the kind of mentality we need in virtually all the sports. With 180 million Nigerians and the kind of resources that God has bestowed in this country, I don't think the oil industry is supposed to be competing with the sports industry.
Right. We have talked about Nigeria having finished 8th place in our last outing in Glasgow. If the athletes and their handlers were listening to you now, and I bet you they are, what would you tell them to do that is new, or what ways would you tell them to improve to make sure that we register a better outing in the current Commonwealth? That's the aim, isn't it?
I think whatever advice we're giving them now, most likely, is not likely going to be making a difference. Because again, for instance, it takes about 2,400 program days, which in Gregorian calendar is about 6 years, to prepare an athlete for the Olympics. So if
what I mean is, assuming they were listening to you now, and don't rule out that possibility, because we're an international station, what do you suggest they should do practically?
All I would have told them in circumstances like this would have been, gentlemen and ladies, there is no other nation in the world that is as great as Nigeria. Now, for you to have been brought out from the population of the people who live in this country to come and wear the Nigerian jersey, you have to go out as an ambassador and do your best. Your best is not because of the fact that we gave you everything to make you the best, but you go out there and be the best that you can and leave the rest to God.
I think that's a good place to end. Thank you, Jide, for coming on Nigeria Today. And that's the way it's been on Nigeria Today this Wednesday, talking with Jide Fashikung, a very familiar face indeed on NTA and on our sports programs. Thank you for coming. We've been talking about Nigeria's participation in the ongoing Commonwealth Games. You can watch the program online at www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. Thank you again for watching. My name is Kande Daniel. We'll bring you another edition same time tomorrow.